I found a pregnancy test in the trash, but I'd secretly gotten a vasectomy. The next day, I overheard my wife talking to her MOM. Of course I'll tell him it's his. I did this with the first child. He didn't notice. My lover isn't ready for kids. While she was at work, I packed my stuff and left. I sent the pregnancy test to her lover's wife. She called me and said something that shocked me to my core. You ever have one of those mornings where you wake up thinking the universe finally owes you a break? Then it hands you a flaming bag of chaos instead? Yeah, that was my Tuesday. The day started off normal enough. I brewed my sad, overworked coffee that tasted like someone wrung it out of an accountant's sock, scrolled through a few headlines that made me question the species, and tried to convince myself that my marriage wasn't circling the drain. Spoiler, it was. I wasn't even looking for trouble. I was looking for toothpaste. Simple mission. But the trash can in the bathroom caught my eye, because something pink was sticking out of it, peeking through the tissue like it wanted to be found. Curiosity killed the cat. Sure, but I'm not a cat. I'm just a guy who's had a vasectomy and a questionable amount of faith in humanity. I nudged the tissue aside, and bam. There it was. A pregnancy test. 2 pink lines. Bright. Proud. Mocking me like a Vegas neon sign that said, "Congratulations, idiot." Now, I'm not a genius, but I know basic biology. And considering my sperm had been legally retired 2 years ago, sipping mojitos in the afterlife of medical certainty, this was less surprise baby and more surprise betrayal. I stared at it so long I half expected it to start talking. My first thought wasn't even rage, it was denial. Maybe she bought it for a friend? Maybe it's a prank? Maybe I'm in one of those hidden camera shows where they test if husbands are gullible morons? So I did what any rational man would do. I sniffed it. Don't ask me why. Maybe I thought it would smell like deceit or lemon-scented lies. But no, that thing was real, used, and glowing like a radioactive truth bomb. I stood there, toothbrush in hand, looking at that stick like it held the meaning of life. My brain tried to reboot itself. I even heard that Windows error sound in my head. 2 lines. 2. Meaning positive. Meaning pregnant. Meaning someone's been auditioning for the role of daddy in my absence. Here's the part that really hits you in the gut, the timeline. We hadn't exactly been active lately. Not since Claire started her wellness journey, which apparently involved yoga pants, endless girls' nights, and a mysterious glow that definitely wasn't from our dim bedroom lamp. And me? I just thought we were in a slump. You know, marriages go through phases. Except this phase apparently came with bonus DNA. Downstairs, I heard her humming. Not just any humming, happy humming. Like a Disney princess high on denial and fresh deceit. She was making breakfast, probably avocado toast, because nothing says modern betrayal like smashed green fruit on overpriced bread. I walked to the top of the stairs, holding the pregnancy test like it was evidence in a murder trial. She was wearing that pink robe I bought her last Christmas, the one she said made her feel feminine and soft. Yeah, turns out soft doesn't mean loyal. She looked up, saw me standing there, and smiled that smile, the one that used to make me forget why I was mad. "Morning, babe," she chirped, flipping eggs like life was perfect. I almost said it right then. "Whose baby, Claire?" But my mouth didn't cooperate. Instead, I just stared at her, and it hit me. If I asked right now, she'd lie. She'd put on that innocent face, do that little head tilt, and gaslight me so hard I'd start questioning if my vasectomy was just a vivid dream. So I did something I'm not exactly proud of. I smiled back. Yeah, I smiled at the woman who'd just turned my life into a reality show. "Morning," I said, setting the test on the counter like a ticking bomb wrapped in plastic. She didn't notice. Too busy on her phone, probably texting someone who uses way too many emojis. I poured myself coffee, sat down, and just watched her. Every move suddenly looked choreographed. Every word had a new layer of meaning. "How'd you sleep?" she asked, casual as ever. "Like a man who's about to learn some very interesting things," I said. She laughed, totally missing the storm brewing 2 feet away. "You're so dramatic in the mornings," she said. "Oh, honey, you have no idea." After breakfast, she kissed my cheek and said she was heading to work early. "Big presentation," she said, grabbing her purse like a woman with secrets always has somewhere important to be. The door closed behind her, and I sat there, staring at the mug in my hand. My reflection in the coffee looked like a man who'd just been promoted to Fool of the Month. That's when the realization hit me. If I found this today, that means she took it last night. Meaning this wasn't some long-term thing. Meaning she'd probably been testing fate while I was sleeping upstairs, drooling into my pillow and dreaming about lower electric bills. I laughed, like really laughed. The kind of laugh that sounds too close to crying. So I did what any man on the verge of an existential meltdown would do. I Googled pregnancy test accuracy, like maybe the internet could tell me it's all a misunderstanding. Nope. The internet said 99% accurate. Like it was mocking me too. Fantastic. Science betrayed me. Then I went into detective mode. Checked the trash again. There were tissues, a receipt from the pharmacy, and an empty energy drink can. I checked the timestamp. Purchased at 8:43 p.m. last night. Same night she said she was working late. Cute. I leaned against the counter and took a deep breath. This was no longer confusion. This was clarity wrapped in rage. But the rage wasn't loud. It was quiet, the dangerous kind. The kind that sits in your chest like a loaded gun waiting for a reason. For 2 years, I'd been the supportive husband. Fixed her car. Took her family to dinner. Endured her mom's passive-aggressive comments about how some men just don't have the drive to provide. Lady, your daughter's drive led her straight into another man's passenger seat. But sure, let's talk about mine. And that's when it clicked. This wasn't just betrayal. It was insult to injury. I paid for the roof she cheated under. I bought the groceries she probably made post-affair omelets with. Hell, I even bought the damn robe she was humming in. If that's not irony, I don't know what is. I grabbed the test again, dropped it back into the trash, and washed my hands. Because apparently, betrayal feels sticky. The mirror caught my reflection. Tired eyes, clenched jaw, the look of a man who just unlocked a whole new level of stupidity. I looked myself dead in the eyes and said, "All right, Mason, you've got 2 options. You can lose your mind, or you can make a plan." Spoiler, I chose the plan. But before that plan came the calm. The eerie kind. I cleaned the counter, took another sip of my sad coffee, and chuckled. 2 lines, I muttered. Guess she's finally creative. I spent the rest of the morning pretending to work from home while mentally drafting the opening line to my inevitable divorce speech. Something classy. Something like, "It's not me, it's your complete lack of morals." By noon, the sun was bright, the birds were chirping, and my marriage was officially on life support. I took one last look at the trash can before heading out to work. That stupid little stick sat there like a silent confession. I swear, if it could talk, it'd say, "You're gonna need a lawyer, buddy." I closed the door behind me, the test still in the trash, the truth still humming in the kitchen, and me, Mason Reed, officially done being the clueless husband. The plot twist had arrived, and oh boy, I was about to become the main character. You'd think after discovering a pregnancy test that practically screamed, "You're not the daddy," the universe would give me a day off. Maybe a cosmic coupon for free emotional stability or something. Nope. The next morning, life decided to turn the dial up to soap opera rerun. I woke up early, mostly because sleeping in a house full of betrayal makes your mattress feel like it's judging you. Claire was already up, humming again, because apparently betrayal sounds like show tunes now. She was making coffee, same as always, pretending everything was normal. That woman could win an Oscar for best performance by someone who doesn't deserve it. I poured my own cup and stood there in the kitchen like a ghost haunting his own marriage. I didn't say a word. I just watched her talk about her meeting at the firm, her new client, her crazy schedule. Every word out of her mouth sounded like a lie wrapped in a Target brand apology. The whole time I kept thinking, do I call her out? Do I just say, "Hey, remember my vasectomy and basic human biology?" But no, I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me lose it. I'd play it cool, like a man preparing to drop the calmest nuke in history. She left for work around 8, perfume cloud following her like deceit in liquid form. I sat down, checked my emails, and tried to convince myself to focus on something else. Then I heard her voice. At first, I thought it was an echo, but it wasn't. She'd left her phone on the counter, still connected to her earbuds. The call was coming through the Bluetooth speaker in the living room. A faint, tinny version of her voice floated through. And that's when I realized she wasn't talking to me. She was talking to her mom, Margaret, the woman who once told me I look like the kind of man who owns too many flannels. What does that even mean? Anyway, I froze mid-sip. Claire's voice, casual and confident, filled the room like an evil podcast I didn't subscribe to. Of course I'll tell him it's his, she said. My brain short-circuited. Coffee halfway to my mouth, I stopped moving. Then she laughed. Mom, please. It worked the first time. He didn't notice then either. Mason's not exactly detail-oriented. Detail-oriented? Excuse me, I once organized our spice rack alphabetically and labeled the damn flour. My heart pounded like a marching band with bad timing. The first time? The first time? Her mom's voice came through faintly, that nasal tone that could peel paint off walls. And your lover? What if he finds out? Claire sighed like she was the victim here. He's not ready for kids, Mom. He's got his own marriage to worry about. Oh, for the love of all that's holy. So not only was she cheating now, she'd done it before. And, icing on the humiliation cake, I'd apparently been raising another man's kid this whole time. I stood there so long the coffee went cold and started tasting like despair. I didn't even move. Just stared into nothing, listening to my wife lie about me like it was her cardio routine. He's so sweet, she continued. Too sweet. I'll tell him after the baby's born. Maybe. Sweet. Oh, she didn't mean that as a compliment. She meant naive, stupid, gullible. Like I'm the kind of guy who'd thank the delivery driver who runs over my foot. I should have stopped listening. I really should have. But my inner masochist decided, nah, let's hear the full destruction of your self-esteem in HD. Margaret said something about keeping up appearances, about not embarrassing the family. And Claire, bless her black heart, said, don't worry, I've got it handled. Mason's too predictable. He trusts me completely. If I'd had a shot of whiskey in that moment, I'd have invented a new Olympic sport called emotional sprinting to the bottle. When the call ended, I stood there like a man rebooting after being hit with bad Wi-Fi. My mind was racing. My wife. My life. My kid. Maybe not even mine. It's the kind of revelation that makes your knees weak and your pride pack its bags. I remember glancing at the family photo on the wall. Claire, me, and little Emma, all smiling at the beach last summer. I thought about her tiny hand holding mine as we built sandcastles, her laugh when she dumped a bucket of water on my head. And now, suddenly, I was wondering if biology had just walked out of that picture entirely. I didn't break anything, didn't yell, didn't even cry. I just went numb, like my emotions decided to call in sick. I sat down at the dining table, staring at the salt shaker because it was the only thing in the room that hadn't lied to me. My phone buzzed, Claire texting me, love you, have a great day, with a heart emoji. Oh, the audacity. The emoji looked like it was mocking me. I typed you too, but deleted it before hitting send. I wasn't ready for confrontation. Not yet. If I asked now, she'd twist it. She'd make it about me, about how I don't trust her, or always assume the worst. Nah, I'd wait. Play it smart. Let her dig her own grave. So I went to work like nothing happened, but everything felt different. Even the air conditioner sounded judgmental. My coworker, Greg, asked if I was okay. You look like someone told you your car cheated on you, he said. Yeah, I replied, something like that. I couldn't concentrate. All day, I replayed her words. The first time, that phrase echoed like a bad chorus. Every time my phone buzzed, I half expected another lie to jump out of it. At lunch, I scrolled through our old photos, looking for clues I'd missed. Maybe a glance, a weird smile, a pattern. And damn if I didn't start seeing it, the little things. The late nights, the networking dinners, the sudden wardrobe upgrades. Claire didn't get a raise, she got an affair with benefits. By 5 p.m., I was running on caffeine, heartbreak, and pure spite. I went home, but couldn't face her yet. So I parked around the corner like some rejected spy and just watched the house. She pulled into the driveway 10 minutes later, singing along to the radio like her life was a musical. I waited until she went inside before heading to the nearby gas station to grab a drink. The clerk must have sensed my vibe because he didn't even ask for small talk. Just handed me my beer and nodded like, yeah, man, whatever it is, you look betrayed. I sat in the car, cracked open the can, and thought about everything. The test, the call, the lies. My daughter, God, Emma. If she wasn't mine, did it change how I felt about her? The answer was instant. No. She was mine in every way that mattered. But Claire? She was dead to me. She just didn't know it yet. When I finally walked into the house, she was on the couch, laptop open, pretending to work. She looked up and smiled. Hey babe, she said. Rough day. Yeah, I said. You could say that. She patted the seat beside her. Come sit. Oh, if only she knew how badly I wanted to throw that couch out the window. Instead, I sat, calm and polite. She leaned her head on my shoulder, scrolling through her phone, probably texting her lover. I looked down at her manicured hand resting on my arm and thought, you have no idea what's coming, do you? That night, lying in bed beside her, I stared at the ceiling while she slept soundly. I could hear her breathing, steady, peaceful. The same woman who'd just discussed lying to me on the phone like it was her weekend hobby. I wanted to wake her up, to make her confess right there. But that would have given her power. No, I wanted control. I wanted strategy. As the clock ticked past midnight, I made my decision. Tomorrow, I'd start packing. Not my anger, that I'd keep, but my clothes, my laptop, my dignity. Because I realized something in that moment. Sometimes silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the sound of someone sharpening their revenge. I turned my head to look at her, her hair spread out across the pillow like a halo made of hypocrisy. Sleep well? I whispered. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. The thing about betrayal is, once you've heard your wife casually discuss lying about your paternity scorecard with her mother, you stop seeing her as human. You start seeing her as a badly written character in your own movie, when you're finally done watching. I woke up the next morning with a plan forming, like a hangover made of clarity. Claire was in the shower, humming again. Of course she was. The woman could soundtrack her own downfall and still think it's a love song. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling that calm before the storm. Not the kind where you cry into your pillow and listen to sad songs. No, this was the I'm about to become a legend in my own divorce kind of calm. When she got out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, I smiled. Yeah, smiled. The kind of smile villains give right before the hero realizes he's been outsmarted. Morning, babe, she said, water dripping from her hair, eyes all soft and innocent. I wanted to ask, innocent from which man exactly? But I didn't. I just said, morning. You doing okay? She nodded, kissed my cheek, and went to get dressed for work. I watched her pick out a blazer that matched her deceit. Expensive, sleek, and fake. As she left, she called out, don't forget to pick up Emma after school. The irony hit me like a tax audit. Will do, I said, voice steady, like I wasn't internally plotting an exit so clean it would make Houdini jealous. I heard the door shut, the click of her car key, and then silence. That was it. The last morning I'd ever pretend to be her husband. I got up, pulled on a t-shirt, and looked around the bedroom. Our bedroom. The same one where we'd celebrated anniversaries, argued about finances, and apparently hosted ghosts of infidelity past. I grabbed my duffel bag from the closet, the one I usually used for weekend trips, and started packing. Not the angry, throw everything in a trash bag kind of packing. No, this was strategic, calculated. Every folded shirt was a statement. I'm leaving, but I'm leaving neatly. I started with the essentials. Laptop, check. Chargers, check. Passport, because who knows, maybe I'd fake my death in Belize later. Check. A few pairs of jeans, t-shirts, socks. My favorite hoodie that said, sarcasm is my superpower. I even debated taking the air fryer, but decided that might ruin the drama of the moment. Then I paused at the dresser. On top of it sat a framed photo of Claire, me, and Emma at Disney World. She had her mouse ears on, smiling like a Hallmark ad. I picked it up, stared at it for a long second, then set it face down. The photo wasn't a lie, but the woman in it was. Now, I didn't want to just vanish like some cliché ghost husband. No, I wanted her to know. I wanted the moment she walked in to be burned into her brain forever. I wanted her to feel that silence where my presence used to be. So, I wrote a note. Not a rage letter, not a manifesto. Just a simple, perfectly polite dagger. I pulled out a sticky note, because why not make my revenge aesthetic, and wrote, since you're good at creating new life, I figured you'd be fine creating a new husband too. All the best, Mason. I stuck it on the fridge, right next to her inspirational magnet that said, love grows here. Oh, it sure did. Just not for me. Then I grabbed my bag and headed out. The door shut behind me with a quiet click that sounded a lot like freedom. I half expected thunder to roll dramatically or a slow ballad to play. But no, it was just me and the morning air, crisp and clear. My heart was pounding, but not from fear. From adrenaline. This was it. The great escape. I tossed my bag into the trunk of my dented Subaru. Not exactly the car of a man making a power move, but it had character and reliable air conditioning. I got in, started the engine, and then immediately realized I'd forgotten my wallet. Of course, nothing like ruining your cinematic exit with a dose of real-life incompetence. I sat there for a second, sighed, and muttered, "Real smooth, Mason." Then I went back in, grabbed my wallet off the nightstand, and officially left. Driving away felt weird. Like, I thought you'd, emotionally process for 6 months first. Yeah, well, turns out betrayal's a hell of a motivator. He clapped me on the back. Couch is yours. Just don't snore. That night, I sat on his couch, staring at the ceiling again, but this time it wasn't in despair. It was strategy. I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. Claire thought she had it figured out. Her little web of lies, her secret lover, her backup baby plan. But she underestimated one thing: how dangerous a quiet man becomes when he stops loving you. I started making lists. I'm a list guy. I listed accounts, passwords, joint bills. I made copies of everything, just in case she tried to play financial ninja later. I checked our shared email for any suspicious activity, and boy, was there plenty. Hotel confirmations, Uber receipts to addresses that weren't work. I even found a thank you email from a jewelry store, dated Valentine's Day. The kicker? I didn't get jewelry that year. I got a candle shaped like a cactus. So yeah, someone else got the diamonds. I closed the laptop and laughed. You really picked the wrong guy to underestimate, I said to no one. Alex looked over from his gaming chair. You talking to yourself again? Yeah, I said. Motivational speech practice. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter. Revenge looks good with 8 hours of sleep. I made breakfast, black coffee and toast, and checked my phone. Claire had texted me 7 times. First one said, "Where are you?" Second said, "We need to talk." Then came, "Mason, this isn't funny." And my personal favorite, "If you're trying to punish me, it's not going to work." Oh, sweetheart. It was already working. I didn't reply. Let her stew. Let her wonder. I imagined her walking into the kitchen, seeing that note, and feeling her stomach drop. Probably called her mom immediately. "He knows, Mom. What do I do?" And Margaret, queen of denial, probably said, "Play dumb. Cry. Men love tears." I smiled at the thought. "Cry all you want, Claire," I said under my breath. "You're just hydrating for the courtroom." Later that afternoon, Alex and I went out for burgers. I told him the whole story, every detail, every red flag I'd ignored. He listened, shaking his head. "You know, man, you always said she was out of your league. Turns out she's just out of her mind." "Facts," I said. "But hey, I'm free now. Free and slightly homeless." He grinned. "At least you've got your sense of humor. Bro, it's either laugh or set her car on fire." I chose laughter for legal reasons. That night, I drafted an email to my lawyer. Nothing dramatic. Just, "Hey, I think my marriage qualifies for the irreconcilable differences plus betrayal package." I hit send, leaned back, and sighed. Done. Before bed, I checked Claire's social media, because I'm not a saint. She'd posted a quote on her story. "Sometimes you have to lose something to realize what you had." Oh, she was already entering her poetic villain era. Cute. I replied with a private message. "Yeah, sometimes you have to lose something to realize what you deserve to lose." Then I blocked her. As I lay there, I realized something. I didn't feel broken. I felt rebuilt. Like betrayal had burned down my house. But now I had the blueprint to build a castle. Tomorrow, I decided I'd take the next step. Step 2 of Operation Freedom. But tonight, I just smiled, whispered, "Good luck, Claire," and drifted off knowing that for once, I was the one writing the plot twist. There's a unique kind of peace that comes after you've detonated your life on purpose. It's quiet, freeing, and slightly terrifying. Like that moment after you've thrown a grenade and realized you forgot to duck. That was me the morning after I left Claire. I woke up on Alex's couch with a sore neck, an overinflated sense of dignity, and a new hobby, revenge planning. See, I wasn't about to go full angry ex-husband and torture designer handbags in the yard. No. I wanted poetic revenge. Something with flair. Something she'd feel. While sipping coffee that tasted like regret and gas station filters, I thought about how to serve karma without burning my fingerprints off. That's when it hit me. If Claire wanted to play secret family with her mystery man, I'd deliver a baby shower gift early. Truth. Straight to his doorstep. wrapped in poetic justice. I'd spent years being the loyal idiot. Time to audition for a new role, the man who mailed receipts. I started with a little detective work. Remember how I said I'm detail-oriented, no matter what Claire told her mom? Yeah, that skill came in handy. I knew the guy's name, Derek, because she'd let it slip once in a text she claimed was for a client. Classic cheater mistake, saving your affair partner under a fake name like Sam, but forgetting to delete the email signature. Rookie move. So, I found his wife. Took me 10 minutes. Social media is basically the FBI with filters. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, bingo. There she was, Natalie. PDA mom energy, a little too into inspirational quotes. And this part was gold. A family photo captioned, "My rock, my soulmate, my forever." Oh, honey, if only you knew your forever was out here doing lunch dates with my wife and making unplanned sequels. I sat there grinning like a villain on a caffeine rush. The plan was simple. I grabbed the pregnancy test I'd saved. Yes, I kept it. Don't judge me. It was Exhibit A in the case of People vs. My sanity. I wiped off the tissue bits, put it in a small gift box from an old birthday present, and printed a note. Just one line. No drama. No signature. Congrats. You're going to be a stepmom. Elegant. Brutal. Chef's kiss. I mailed it first thing that morning. Priority shipping, of course, because karma shouldn't arrive late. Then I went back to Alex's, cracked open a beer at 10 a.m., and toasted myself for evolving from victim to vigilante. I figured I'd never hear from her. Maybe she'd scream, maybe she'd cry, maybe she'd hire a hitman named Chad. But I didn't expect what came next. About 24 hours later, my phone rang. Unknown number. Normally, I don't answer those. Nothing good ever follows that ringtone. But my gut said this is about to get juicy. So I picked up. Mason, a woman's voice said. Nervous. Trembling. Depends who's asking, I replied, because I watch too many crime shows and I like the drama. This is Natalie. Oh, the other betrayed half of the double feature. Showtime. I leaned back, trying to sound calm even though my pulse spiked like I'd just opened a text that started with "We need to talk." Hey, Natalie. Guess my package arrived. She exhaled shakily. Yeah, it did. There was a pause. Heavy, quiet, the kind that carries 1,000 emotions you don't want to unpack in public. Then she said, "You need to know, Claire's not the only one lying." For a second, I thought she meant Claire faked the pregnancy too, and I was about to pop champagne. But her tone said otherwise. Okay, I said cautiously, you've got my attention. Enlighten me. She hesitated. My husband, Derek, he's been cheating on me too. Well, yeah, I said, maybe a little too dry. That's kind of why we're on the phone, right? No, she said quickly. Not just with your wife. There are others. I sat up. Others, as in 2 others. 3, she whispered. All from his office. Claire was just one of them. I blinked. You're telling me this man had a rotation? She laughed bitterly. More like a loyalty program. I whistled low. Guess I wasn't cheated on. I was part of a corporate benefits package. Even through the phone, I heard her snort, the kind of laugh that only comes after you've cried enough to fill a swimming pool. And right then, something shifted. I realized we weren't enemies. We were co-survivors in the same dumpster fire. 2 passengers on the Titanic of love, clinging to opposite ends of the same floating door. Look, I said, you didn't deserve this, and neither did I. But maybe, just maybe, we can make it hurt a little for them. There was a pause, then a quiet, almost dangerous kind of chuckle. I was hoping you'd say that. I liked her immediately. Not in the romantic way, at least not yet, but in the teammate in chaos way. Natalie had the calm fury of a woman plotting a murder, but still making dinner plans. My kind of person. We spent the next 20 minutes comparing notes. She told me Derek had been using the same excuses Claire did. Late meetings, urgent deadlines, corporate events, that somehow always involved hotel bars. We even realized they'd probably coordinated some of those lies together. She mentioned dates, and I cross-referenced them with Claire's girls' nights. It matched perfectly. A synchronization of deceit. Bonnie and Clyde, but make it HR compliant. Unbelievable, I said, pacing. I married a woman who couldn't remember my favorite color, but somehow kept her alibi calendar tighter than the CIA. Natalie sighed. You think you know someone, and then you find out they're starring in a whole other series you weren't even cast in. Yeah, I said, shaking my head. And we're the unpaid extras. She laughed again, short, sharp, exhausted. I'm done crying, she said finally. Now I just want to expose him. That's when the idea really started forming. Oh, I was already halfway there, but now? Now I had an ally. Someone who knew the players, the office politics, the weak spots. A double agent with receipts. We'll talk more tomorrow, I said. But trust me, Natalie, we're not just going to expose them. We're going to make it memorable. Before hanging up, she said something that stuck with me. You know, Mason, you sound weirdly calm for someone whose world just blew up. I smiled. That's because I stopped seeing it as a tragedy. It's a plot twist. And I love plot twists. After the call, I sat there in silence for a long time. My beer had gone warm, but I didn't care. I replayed everything in my head. Her words, Claire's lies, the years I spent playing family with a woman who probably thought she was untouchable. But she wasn't. Nobody's untouchable when you've got nothing left to lose. Alex came home from work and found me staring at my phone like a man plotting global domination. Dude, he said cautiously, you look like you're about to start a cult. Not a cult, I said. A collaboration. With who? The wife of my wife's boyfriend. He blinked. That sentence is exhausting. Welcome to my life, I said. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind was on overdrive. Every text, every memory, every fake smile. It all replayed like a bad movie marathon. But now there was an undercurrent of excitement. I wasn't powerless anymore. For the first time since this nightmare began, I had control. Before finally drifting off, I drafted one final text to Claire. Short, sweet, and vague enough to keep her panicking. Hey, we'll need to talk soon. About what you've been hiding. Then I turned my phone off. Let her lose sleep for a change. As I closed my eyes, one thought lingered, warm and satisfying. The truth was out there now, spreading like wildfire, and it wasn't just Claire's secret anymore. It was a shared disaster. And the best part? I'd just met the one person who hated them as much as I did. Tomorrow, we'd start planning the real show. If you've never been part of an unofficial betrayed spouses support group, let me tell you, it's oddly liberating. Especially when the other member is just as fed up, furious, and funny as you are. After that call with Natalie, I couldn't stop thinking about her words. Not in a sentimental way, but in a we're about to pull off the emotional version of Ocean's 11 kind of way. I woke up the next morning with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt since the last time I fixed the Wi-Fi on the first try. The mission, partnership, and vengeance. Because misery might love company, but revenge? Revenge throws a full-blown dinner party. I met Natalie the next day at a little coffee shop downtown, neutral territory. I got there early, because I'm the kind of guy who likes to choose a seat that faces the door. Years of marriage taught me to expect ambushes in broad daylight. The cafe smelled like overpriced beans and bad decisions. I ordered black coffee, no sugar, because I was in mourning and sweeteners felt disrespectful. She walked in 5 minutes later, wearing sunglasses big enough to hide an identity crisis. She looked exactly like I felt, exhausted but dangerous. She spotted me immediately, hesitated for half a second like she was debating running away, then came over and sat down. You must be Mason, she said, removing her glasses. You must be Natalie, I replied, offering a handshake that turned into one of those awkward half-hug things people do when they've been trauma-bonded through adultery. Up close, she had that quiet composure people get when they've cried themselves out, but are now fueled purely by caffeine and wrath. We didn't even start with small talk. So, she said, sipping her latte, our spouses are garbage. Recyclable garbage, at best, I said. But I'm open to composting them for the environment. That broke the ice. She laughed, really laughed. For the first time, I could tell. It wasn't the polished, polite laugh of a woman used to pretending at cocktail parties. It was the laugh of someone finally done giving a damn. She opened her purse and pulled out her phone. I brought evidence, she said, scrolling with purpose. Screenshots, photos, receipts. Derek's been careless. She turned the screen toward me, and I swear my soul briefly left my body. There he was, Mr. Smooth cheating salesman, kissing Claire in a hotel lobby like they were auditioning for a Hallmark movie called Adultery in the afternoon. I whistled low. Wow, they really didn't even try to hide it. Oh, it gets better, she said, swiping again. That was Valentine's Day. Funny, I said. I got a cactus that day. Guess she was trying to be symbolic. She smiled grimly. He used the same restaurant for multiple affairs. Look, see the timestamp? Same table, 3 different women. I leaned in, shaking my head. Man's running a buffet of bad life choices. We sat in silence for a moment, just letting the absurdity settle in. 2 strangers, bonded by betrayal, sipping overpriced coffee while dissecting photographic evidence of the world's least imaginative cheaters. So what's your end game? She finally asked. Honestly, I don't want money. I don't want closure. I just want them both to choke on their lies in a public setting with good lighting. Her eyes sparkled, mischievous, darkly amused. Same. That's when we started plotting. At first, it was theoretical, like, wouldn't it be wild if we exposed them at their office? Or imagine renting a billboard. But the more we talked, the more we realized, why not actually do something? It wasn't revenge anymore. It was performance art. We mapped it out on a napkin like 2 criminals in a diner scene. Step 1, gather more proof. Step 2, time it perfectly. Step 3, deliver maximum humiliation. She mentioned Derek's company had a fancy quarterly dinner coming up. Partners, spouses, even the CEO would be there. Claire would definitely go as his +1, because irony apparently turns her on. I leaned back, grinning. A dinner, huh? A public stage? That's perfect. Natalie smirked. What are you thinking? I'm thinking we make it a double feature. You show up. I show up. They both think they're getting away with it. Then, mid-meal, we serve them the truth. She blinked, then grinned slowly. A live reveal. Exactly. Think of it as the crossover episode nobody asked for. We clinked coffee cups like conspirators sealing a pact. Over the next few days, we became a duo of digital detectives. Natalie was the brains. She had access to Derek's corporate calendar and could track his every fake meeting. I was the muscle, by which I mean the guy with time on his hands and nothing left to lose. She'd text me updates. I'd verify them with my own petty research, and together we built a dossier that would make a private investigator blush. Screenshots, receipts, GPS timestamps. We even found hotel invoices charged to Derek's company card. Rookie mistake, my guy. Adultery and embezzlement in one package, HR's dream combo. In between all that, we talked. Not just about the cheaters, but about everything. Life, jobs, kids. Turns out Natalie had a teenage son who thought his dad was a hero. She was dreading the day she'd have to tell him otherwise. I told her about Emma, about how she was too young to understand any of this, but old enough to notice when her parents stopped smiling in photos. We found this weird rhythm, dark humor mixed with empathy. At one point, she asked, "Do you ever wonder if we missed the signs because we didn't want to see them?" "Every day," I said. "But honestly, I think we saw them. We just hoped we were wrong." She nodded. "Yeah, hope's a hell of a drug." By Friday, we had everything ready. The dinner was set for Saturday night at Riverside Bistro, classy place, overpriced steak, and enough fake laughter to drown a conscience. Natalie got the RSVP list through a contact in Derek's company. Sure enough, both our spouses were attending. Together, like nothing was wrong. Like the universe hadn't already signed their emotional death certificates. The plan was simple. I'd get there first, sit at a corner table. Natalie would come in later. We'd both observe until the right moment. Then, boom. Reveal. Short, sharp, surgical. No yelling, no chaos. Just 2 calm, collected spouses dropping truth bombs while sipping wine. Think less Jerry Springer, more Scorsese. The night before, Claire texted me again. "Can we talk? Please? You're being childish." I stared at it for a long time, then replied, "You're right. I'll see you soon." No context. Let her think it was reconciliation. The next morning, Natalie called. "You sure about this?" "Never been surer," I said. "Besides, I already dry cleaned my best shirt. Would hate to waste that effort." She laughed softly. "You're really something, Mason." "Yeah," I said, "so they keep telling me. Usually right before they ruin my life." Saturday came fast. I spent the afternoon pretending to be normal, did laundry, grabbed lunch with Alex, who insisted on giving me an unnecessary pep talk. "Remember, dude," he said, pointing his fry at me. "Revenge is best served cold, but dessert's optional." "Noted," I said. "I'll keep the souffle light." By 7 p.m., I was outside Riverside Bistro. The place was glowing, soft jazz, candles, fake smiles behind glass. I walked in, told the hostess my reservation name, Reed, party of one, and took my seat near the back. I ordered whiskey, neat. I wanted to look calm enough to confuse the devil himself. 5 minutes later, they walked in. Claire in a navy dress, Derek in his smug suit. They looked perfect, coordinated, like a commercial for betrayal perfume. She glanced around, nervous but smiling. I watched her from the corner of my eye, a quiet storm in human form. They sat down across the room, laughing over wine. My chest tightened, but not from pain, anticipation. Then Natalie walked in. Elegant, composed. She looked like revenge in heels. She spotted them immediately and gave me a subtle nod. Showtime. I could have caused a scene. Could have flipped the table, yelled, "You cheated," like a soap opera extra. But no, I wanted precision. I stood, drink in hand, and walked over, every step deliberate. The sound of my shoes echoed just enough for Claire to look up, and when our eyes met, I saw it. Recognition, panic, guilt, the trifecta. "Mason," she stammered. "What are you doing here?" "Oh, you know," I said, swirling my glass. "Just thought I'd drop by. Family dinner, right?" Before she could respond, Natalie appeared beside me, calm as ever. Derek went pale. "Natalie, what? How?" She smiled coldly. "Hi, honey. Small world, isn't it?" You could have heard a pin drop. Every head turned. I leaned forward slightly, raised my glass, and said, "To family secrets and DNA tests that don't lie." The waiter froze mid-step. Someone gasped. Claire's face drained of color faster than my love for her. Derek looked like a man trying to Google how to disappear. Natalie placed a folder on the table, slid it toward him, and said, "You might want to read that before HR does." The silence stretched, thick and heavy, before collapsing into chaos. Claire started whispering frantic excuses. Derek stammered about misunderstandings. I just stood there, sipping whiskey, enjoying the kind of peace only poetic justice brings. Natalie looked at me, smiled slightly, and whispered, "We did it." "Yeah," I said. "We really did." Then I turned, left some cash on the table, and walked out without looking back. Behind me, I heard Claire's voice cracking, Derek's chair scraping, Natalie's heels clicking. But I didn't care. Outside, the cool night air hit me like freedom. I lit a cigarette, even though I don't smoke, just because the moment demanded it. Sometimes revenge doesn't taste sweet. Sometimes it just tastes right. You'd think after detonating your marriage in front of a live audience with mood lighting and background jazz, you'd feel nothing but peace, right? Like the credits would roll, music would swell, and I'd ride off into the sunset with my dignity strapped to the hood of my Subaru. But nope. Turns out revenge has an aftertaste, bittersweet, smoky, and weirdly addictive. The next morning, I woke up in Alex's apartment feeling like I'd swallowed a battery. It wasn't regret, it was energy. Pure, vengeful caffeine. I'd spent years being the understanding husband, the guy who shrugged off late nights and mystery perfume. But now I was the guy who just publicly ended 2 marriages with one toast and a calm grin. You'd think that'd be enough. But my brain had already started whispering, what's next? See, the problem with chaos is once you taste control again, you want seconds. I made myself coffee, checked my phone, and sure enough, there it was. 17 messages from Claire. The first few were desperate. "Where are you? Please call me." Then they turned defensive. "You didn't have to humiliate me. It's not what you think." Then finally, my favorite stage, rage. "You're cruel. You've ruined my life." I stared at the screen, took a sip of my coffee, and smiled. "I didn't ruin your life, Claire," I muttered. "I just showed it to you in HD." I ignored her and opened a new chat. Natalie. If Claire was a storm, Natalie was the eye of it. Calm, calculating, and strangely therapeutic to talk to. I texted her, "Morning, co-conspirator. Any nuclear fallout on your side?" She replied almost instantly, "Oh, it's biblical. Derek's been suspended pending an HR investigation. His mistresses found out and started a group chat. It's chaos." I snorted my coffee. "A group chat?" I wrote back. "What's it called, Adultery Anonymous?" She sent a laughing emoji and said, "Pretty much. They're trading stories." Turns out he was giving the same Valentine's card to multiple women. I had to stand up and pace just to burn off the adrenaline. The man had cheated in bulk. Good Lord, I muttered. This guy treats women like subscription boxes. Then Natalie dropped the real bomb. His company is talking about pressing charges. misuse of funds, falsified travel claims. Apparently, all those work trips with Claire were billed as client expenses. I stopped dead. You're telling me my wife's affair was on the corporate budget? Yup. Derek's about to learn what audit really means. I laughed so hard I had to put my cup down. It was karmic justice on steroids. Claire had always loved the finer things. 5-star hotels, fancy wine, the illusion of status. And now all those little luxuries were coming with a bill she couldn't pay. I texted back, remind me to send HR a thank you card. But underneath the jokes, I could feel something shifting. It wasn't just about payback anymore. It was about clarity. The kind that only comes after your whole life explodes and you're left sifting through the ashes for pieces worth keeping. That afternoon, I met up with Natalie again. This time at a diner. Not some fancy cafe, just a greasy spoon that smelled like bacon and second chances. She looked better than before. Sharper, lighter, like someone who'd finally stepped off the emotional treadmill. Morning, partner, I said, sliding into the booth. Morning, chaos magnet, she said, smiling. We ordered coffee, black for me, half cream and sugar for her, and she pulled out her phone again. So, here's where we stand, she said, all business. Derek suspended. HR's digging into his records. And as of this morning, Claire's company is aware of her involvement. My eyebrows shot up. How? She smiled slyly. Let's just say one of Derek's other girlfriends works in the same office and decided to do a little whistleblowing. Oh, that's beautiful, I said. Corporate karma at its finest. Yeah, she said. Claire's been called in for a discussion with HR. Apparently, sleeping with a married man on company time is frowned upon. I chuckled. Who knew? She leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand. So what about you? What's next for Mason the Avenger? I shrugged. Honestly, I'm thinking about an extended vacation from all things human. Maybe buy a cabin somewhere quiet. Live off coffee and self-respect. She grinned. That sounds boring. Boring's underrated, I said. You ever notice how peaceful boring people look? Like they're not waiting for someone to stab them in the emotional kidney. She laughed, and for the first time in a while, it didn't sound bitter. You're funny, she said. You ever think about doing stand-up? Already lived it, I said. It's called marriage. We both cracked up, and for a moment, the world didn't feel heavy. Then her expression softened. You know, Mason, you're handling this way better than I expected. Thanks, I said. It's all sarcasm and caffeine. My coping strategy is 70% dark humor and 30% denial. She smiled, but there was something in her eyes. Empathy, maybe even admiration. Still, she said, I'm glad we did this together. I don't think I could have handled it alone. Yeah, I said quietly. Me neither. We sat there for a while, just two broken people slowly realizing they weren't broken anymore. Just reassembled differently. When I got back to Alex's later, he was on the couch eating cereal straight from the box. So, he said through a mouthful of cornflakes, did you two plot world domination again? Close, I said. Corporate enlightenment. He raised an eyebrow. You're scaring me with how calm you are? Are you sure you're not secretly a hitman? Trust me, I said, flopping down next to him. If I were, I'd have started with Claire's mother. He laughed so hard he nearly choked. Oh man, Margaret would never see it coming. What do you mean? I'm not the main character. We both lost it. It felt good, laughter without tension. For once, I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like a man who'd survived something wild and come out sharper. That night, I opened my email and saw one from Claire. Subject line, please just hear me out. Against my better judgment, I clicked. It was long, pages of justification, guilt, nostalgia. She wrote about how she didn't mean for it to happen, how she felt lonely, how Derek understood her ambition. It was the same recycled nonsense cheaters pull from the universal script. But one line stuck out. I know what I did was wrong, but you humiliated me in front of everyone. I sat back, stared at the screen, and laughed out loud. Oh, poor you, I said. How ever will you recover from facing consequences? I hit reply and typed, Claire, you weren't humiliated. You were unmasked. There's a difference. Then I deleted it. She didn't deserve a response. Instead, I opened my texts and messaged Natalie. Hey, you busy? She replied, not really. Why? Just curious if you're up for one last act of poetic closure. Define closure. Public, mildly legal, emotionally satisfying. She sent a laughing emoji. I'm in. Details. So I told her my idea. We'd send anonymous letters to everyone Derek and Claire had lied to. Their bosses, their families, even their friends. Not cruel ones. Just factual. Screenshots, timelines, truth. Nothing hits harder than reality delivered without commentary. We spent the next 2 days crafting digital dossiers. Natalie handled Derek's side. I handled Claire's. Every email was polite, professional, devastatingly precise. We didn't insult them. We didn't rant. We just presented the facts like case studies in deceit. By the end of it, I felt weirdly peaceful, like I'd finally drained the last drop of resentment. On the 3rd day, Natalie called. You know what's crazy? She said. I don't even care about him anymore. I just feel done. Yeah, I said. It's like cleaning out your garage. You hate the process, but once the trash is gone, you can finally breathe. She laughed softly. You really do have a metaphor for everything. Occupational hazard of being betrayed, I said. You start narrating your own movie. That night, I walked outside onto Alex's tiny balcony. The air was cool, the city humming below. I looked at the skyline and realized I wasn't angry anymore. Not at Claire, not even at myself for missing the signs. I was just aware. Aware that love doesn't always end with fireworks. Sometimes it ends with paperwork and screenshots. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from Natalie. To new beginnings. Whatever that means. I smiled. To new beginnings, I replied. For the first time in months, I slept without replaying old conversations in my head. No what-ifs, no imaginary arguments, no bitterness. Just quiet. Operation Enlightenment wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. And maybe, just maybe, a little bit of freedom disguised as chaos. There are certain moments in life when you know you're walking into history. Yours, specifically. Not the kind they'll teach in classrooms, but the kind your therapist will later call a significant turning point. That's how I felt pulling up to Riverside Bistro that night. My shirt crisp, my sarcasm sharper than the steak knives inside. The place was glowing like it had something to prove. Dim lights, clinking glasses, fake laughter echoing through the windows. I'd been here before with Claire, back when I thought the worst secret she kept was how expensive her skincare routine really was. Funny how life ages you faster than wrinkles. Natalie and I had planned this down to the minute. We met outside, looking like two people who'd finally graduated from the University of Betrayal with honors. She was in a black dress that could make an apology look confident, and I'd gone with a navy suit, the same one I wore at our wedding. Call it poetic. You ready for this? She asked, smoothing her hair like we were about to walk onto a stage instead of into emotional crossfire. Ready? I've been rehearsing this in my head for days, I said. Let's make Shakespeare proud. Inside, the restaurant was packed. It smelled like butter, arrogance, and money. Every table was filled with people pretending their lives were better than they actually were. A perfect setting for truth to make a surprise appearance. The hostess led us to our table, strategically positioned across the room from Derek and Claire. They were already there, laughing over wine, so oblivious I could have sworn Karma herself was standing behind them, filing her nails. Claire looked radiant, of course. Betrayal must be her skincare secret. Derek, on the other hand, had the smug grin of a man who'd gotten too comfortable juggling lies. Natalie leaned in and whispered, God, look at them. You'd never know they blew up 2 families. Oh, I'd know, I said. That's the same smile she gave me when she maxed out my credit card on wellness retreats. We didn't rush it. No, this kind of performance needed pacing. Let them laugh. Let them drink. Let them think life's good. When the waiter came by, I ordered the most expensive whiskey they had and a steak I didn't plan to finish. Natalie smirked. Big spender tonight, huh? House money, I said. Technically, half of this is financed by her moral bankruptcy. By the time the entrees arrived, it was time. Derek reached across the table to squeeze Claire's hand, and I swear I could hear a violin playing somewhere. I stood, glass in hand, and walked toward them. Natalie followed, calm as ever, like a spy on a mission. Heads turned as we approached. There's something magnetic about quiet fury in a suit. Claire's smile froze mid-sentence when she saw me. Mason, she stammered, eyes darting like a cornered politician. What are you doing here? Oh, you know, I said, swirling my drink. Just thought I'd check out the dinner special. Heard betrayal's on the menu. Derek choked on his wine. Natalie stepped forward, resting her hand lightly on his shoulder. Hi, sweetheart, she said sweetly. Surprised to see me? The color drained from his face faster than free champagne disappears at a wedding. Natalie, this isn't. Don't, she said, cutting him off. We both know exactly what this is. Every nearby table had gone silent. The air was thick with tension and nosy curiosity. A waiter froze mid-step with a tray of desserts, his eyes bouncing between us like he'd just walked into live theater. I raised my glass, gave the room a polite smile, and said, "To family secrets and DNA tests that don't lie." A few people gasped. One older man coughed into his soup. Claire's lip trembled. Derek looked like he wanted to crawl under the table and start a new life in the sewer system. Natalie leaned in close to Derek and whispered, "Check your email. HR's very curious about your travel expenses." Then she turned to Claire and said, "And maybe next time you want to play mistress, pick someone with better taste in wine." Claire stood up, her voice shaking. "Mason, please, not here." "Oh, absolutely here," I said. "You love an audience, don't you? Consider this your encore." Derek tried to intervene, raising his hands like a referee at a cheating championship. "Look, everyone calm down." "Buddy," I said, "you're the last person who should say the word everyone. You've had more audiences than Broadway." The table next to us actually clapped. I kid you not, clapped. Someone whispered, "Oh my God, this is better than Netflix." Claire's mascara started doing what her morals had already done, run. She reached out for me, voice cracking. "Mason, please, I can explain." "I'm sure you can," I said, stepping back. "You've always been great at storytelling. Just make sure to cite your sources this time." Natalie crossed her arms, looking almost bored. "I think we're done here," she said calmly. "Enjoy your meal, Derek. It might be your last one not served on a plastic tray." We turned and walked out, leaving behind a room full of dropped jaws and whispered commentary. The hostess gave us this wide-eyed look like she'd just witnessed a ghost. I smiled and said, "Table's all yours if you want to see what self-destruction looks like up close." Outside, the night air hit like freedom. Cold, crisp, honest. Natalie exhaled, a little shaky, then grinned. "That went better than expected." "Yeah," I said. "I'd call it a 5-star meltdown. Great ambience, solid performance, and a satisfying finale." She laughed, leaning against the railing. "You think they'll recover?" "Oh, they'll try," I said. "But from now on, every fancy dinner they attend will come with flashbacks and panic attacks. That's the kind of trauma you can't refund." We stood there in silence for a bit, watching cars pass, letting the adrenaline fade. I realized then that revenge isn't loud, it's quiet. It's the stillness after the explosion, when all that's left is truth. Natalie looked at me, her expression softening. "You know, Mason, we actually did it. We took back control." "Yeah," I said. "Guess we should start a club or something." She smiled. "Double Betrayal Club. Meetings at diners. Membership free. Sarcasm mandatory." I laughed. "I'd join." We said our goodbyes, and as she walked away, I watched her disappear into the night. Stronger, freer, done. I got into my car, started the engine, and caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. For the first time in years, I didn't look like a man surviving his marriage. I looked like a man who'd survived himself. I pulled out of the parking lot and headed home, the radio low, the city lights streaking past like new beginnings. Behind me, somewhere in that restaurant, 2 people were probably arguing, crying, and blaming each other. Let them. They deserve the noise. Me? I had silence, and for once, it sounded perfect. The morning after the restaurant showdown felt like waking up after a thunderstorm. Everything looked calm, but you knew something big had been rearranged. The air was clearer, my phone heavier, and my peace louder. I lay there staring at the ceiling of Alex's spare room, waiting for guilt or regret to crawl in, but all that showed up was satisfaction with a side of hunger. I'd burned my old life down in front of a live audience, and now I was craving breakfast and new beginnings. But peace in the age of smartphones doesn't last long. My phone buzzed like an angry hornet on the nightstand. Claire. Again. Her texts had evolved overnight like a toxic Pokemon. Stage 1 had been denial. Stage 2, pity party. Now we were at Stage 3, emotional blackmail wrapped in victimhood. "You embarrassed me, Mason. Everyone's talking about it. Do you realize what you've done? You ruined my reputation." "Oh, sweetheart, your reputation ruined itself when it decided to take a hotel loyalty card out in Derek's name." I ignored the first few, but then she sent a voice note. I debated listening, curiosity winning out because I'm only human, and I hit play. Her voice came through, shaky but sharp. I don't know what you think you've accomplished, but you didn't have to do it like that. You could have just left. You didn't have to humiliate me. I laughed out loud. That's the cheater's national anthem. You didn't have to expose me. I almost replied. Don't worry, the humiliation was complimentary, but decided to let her stew. Let silence be my closing argument. Meanwhile, the world was already doing what it does best, spreading gossip faster than wildfire in a dry forest. My phone was a notification graveyard. Co-workers, old friends, even my Aunt Susan asking, is it true what they're saying? I didn't even know what they were saying, but based on the looks I got at the coffee shop that morning, it was entertaining. I'd become local folklore, the guy who turned a dinner reservation into a public execution. One barista actually winked at me and said, "Legend." I tipped her extra because recognition should always be rewarded. I scrolled through Facebook later, and that's when I saw it, the digital apocalypse. Someone had recorded part of the confrontation at Riverside Bistro. The video was titled "Cheating Couple Gets Exposed at Dinner. Wait for the twist." Over 20,000 views overnight. I clicked play. There I was, calm as a monk, whiskey in hand, toasting to family secrets. The camera caught everything: Claire's shock, Derek's panic, Natalie's precision strike. It even ended with the audience clapping. In the comments section, people were eating it up like popcorn. This is Oscar-worthy. Mason is a king. Claire's mascara deserves an Emmy. I probably should have been mortified, but honestly, I was proud. I'd gone viral for the first time in my life, and I didn't even have to dance or lip sync to do it. I called Natalie that afternoon. She answered on the second ring, laughing before I could even speak. You've seen it, haven't you? Oh, I've seen it, I said. Apparently, I'm an internet folk hero now. There's even a meme of me raising my glass with the caption, "To all the red flags I ignored." She cackled. That's amazing. Derek's been in hiding all morning. HR put him on indefinite leave while they review his expense reports. 3 of his side flings have already posted cryptic quotes about liars getting what they deserve. It's like watching a Greek tragedy unfold in LinkedIn posts. And Claire? I asked. Oh, she's not doing great, Natalie said, and there was no apology in her tone. Her company caught wind of everything. You know how corporate PR loves a clean image. She's been pulled from her accounts. Apparently, she tried to claim it's a private matter, but someone forwarded the video to HR. I whistled. So, that's what we call a career adjustment. More like a free fall, she said, sipping something. I could hear the ice clinking through the phone. You realize we accidentally created a cautionary tale, right? We're the reason every cheater in a 50-mile radius just turned off their location sharing. Good, I said. Let them live in paranoia. It's cardio for the soul. We talked for another hour, swapping updates and snark like co-workers in a very petty office. But beneath the humor, there was this quiet sense of something else, vindication. For once, the truth wasn't hidden behind fake smiles and polite lies. It was out there, messy and loud, and we didn't have to carry it anymore. By evening, I decided to check my email. Bad idea. 50 unread messages, most of them from people I barely knew. One from my old boss. Mason, I heard what happened. Drinks on me sometime. You're my new hero. Another from my neighbor. I knew that woman was shady. Her recycling bins were too organized. People love tragedy, but they worship poetic justice. Then came the cherry on top. A text from Claire's mother, Margaret, the woman who'd spent years implying I wasn't ambitious enough for her daughter. Mason, she wrote, I don't approve of how you handled this, but I can't say she didn't deserve it. I laughed so hard I had to sit down. Even Margaret had turned on her. If your mother-in-law starts siding with your ex, that's God personally stamping case closed on your life. A few days passed, and the internet storm started to settle. Claire moved out of our house, finally. I hadn't gone back since leaving, but Alex told me she'd been there, packing boxes and crying dramatically for the neighbors. One even called me to say she was sobbing in the driveway for 30 minutes. I said, yeah, she's rehearsing for her next lie. But the silence that followed, that was something else. For years, my life had been filled with her noise, her music, her perfume, her fake apologies. Now, there was peace. Not emptiness, not loneliness, just quiet. I cooked dinner without anyone complaining about seasoning. I watched my shows without judgment. I even started sleeping better, though I still woke up sometimes expecting the smell of her vanilla candles. It's funny how betrayal teaches your brain to expect chaos. Natalie and I kept in touch. We weren't romantic. Not yet. Anyway, but there was a strange bond there. We'd been through the same fire, and somehow we'd come out less burnt, more polished. She'd send me updates every few days. Derek's officially fired. One of his mistresses tagged him in a self-love post. The irony is breathtaking. Then one afternoon, she called me, her voice breathless. "You're going to want to hear this," she said. "Claire just posted an apology on social media." I grabbed my laptop faster than I've ever moved in my life. The post was long, tearful, and grammatically offensive. She wrote about making mistakes, about how painful lessons lead to growth, and, of course, about how she never meant to hurt anyone. Comments were brutal. "Girl, you meant it. He deserved better. You should have left when you realized you were just background noise in someone else's story." My favorite one said, "She cheated with a man who got fired. That's not romance. That's poor investment strategy." I nearly spit out my drink. Later that night, Natalie texted, "Guess Karma's working overtime." "Good," I replied. She always was a workaholic. But it wasn't all jokes. There was a strange moment of reflection, too. Because for the first time, I didn't feel the need to get even. The score had been settled. The world had seen the truth, and I didn't have to lift another finger. I was free, really free. Still, closure's a funny thing. You don't realize you have it until you stop rehearsing arguments in your head. I stopped imagining what I'd say to her if we met again. I stopped needing her to understand my pain. I even stopped checking if she'd texted. She did, of course, every few days. Little messages like, "Can we just talk?" or "I miss what we had." But I didn't reply, because what we had wasn't love. It was an unpaid internship in disappointment. About a week later, Natalie invited me over for dinner. "A friendly thing," she said. I went, not expecting much. But when I walked into her place, it felt peaceful. Warm light, music playing low, the smell of real food. Not pretense, not performance. Just calm. We ate. We laughed. We talked about everything except them. And somewhere between the laughter and the silence, I realized something. Sometimes, revenge isn't about hurting them. It's about healing you. As I left that night, she walked me to the door, smiling softly. "You know," she said, "for two people who've been lied to, we're doing pretty damn well." "Yeah," I said. "Guess honesty hits different when it's finally real." She laughed. "You really should write a book." "Already did," I said. "It's called How to Spot Red Flags Before They Become Divorce Papers." She rolled her eyes, but I caught the smile she tried to hide. As I drove home, I thought about how strange life is. A month ago, I was married, comfortable, and clueless. Now, I was divorced, slightly internet famous, and happier than I'd ever been. Turns out peace doesn't look like perfection. It looks like finally laughing without guilt. I parked the car, leaned back, and looked at the night sky. No drama, no texts, no noise. Just stars and quiet. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the man who got cheated on. I felt like the man who'd survived the storm and come out shining. You ever think life's done throwing curveballs at you, then it winds up and nails you in the ribs just for sport? That was me, 3 weeks after the restaurant fiasco, living my best divorced and thriving life. Or at least trying to. I was calmer, sharper, borderline zen. My phone was quiet for once. I'd stopped stalking Claire's social media, stopped replaying the "how could she" monologues, and started focusing on what really mattered. Figuring out what the hell to do with all this new freedom. You don't realize how much time betrayal frees up until your weekends are suddenly wide open. No fake family brunches, no charity galas where your wife flirts with the donors. Just peace, pizza, and me. But of course, peace doesn't last long when karma's still doing inventory. It started with a phone call. I was in my kitchen, mid-toast, when my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. Normally, I'd let it go to voicemail, because nothing good ever starts with unknown caller, but I answered anyway. "This is Mason," I said. "Mason, hi. It's Natalie." Her voice was steady, but there was an edge there, the kind people get when something big's about to drop. "Hey, Nat," I said. "You sound serious. What's up? Did Derek finally join a monastery?" She didn't laugh. "You might want to sit down." "That bad?" "That poetic," she said. "Derek's company just fired him." I blinked. Fired? Like, Walk of shame with the cardboard box fired. Exactly that. They found out he'd been charging hotel stays, flights, and dinners under client entertainment. Except the clients were your wife and 3 other women. The CFO personally escorted him out. It's everywhere. LinkedIn, office group chats, the whole circus. I grinned so hard my toast almost fell out of my mouth. Oh, I'm framing this day. The man cheated on corporate time and company dime. Efficiency at its finest. Here's the kicker, she said, lowering her voice like we were discussing nuclear codes. He's broke. I choked on my coffee. Broke? As in karma just repossessed his lifestyle. Yup. All the fancy gifts he gave Claire? Company card. They're demanding repayment. His accounts are frozen pending investigation. He's in serious legal trouble. I leaned back, whistling. So, to summarize, man loses job, gets audited, and can't even buy gas without HR approval. I love it when poetic justice writes its own sequel. Me too, she said, chuckling. It gets better. Claire tried to call me this morning. What? I sat up. She called you. Yup. Apparently, she thought maybe I'd understand what she's going through. I didn't answer, obviously. But from what I hear, she's spiraling. Derek dumped her last night. I almost felt bad. Almost. Let me guess. He blamed her for getting him caught. Exactly, Natalie said. Told her she ruined everything and then blocked her. She's officially alone. Mason. That last sentence hung in the air. I should have felt triumphant. I should have thrown a victory parade in my living room. But instead, there was this strange, hollow calm. Not pity. Exactly. More like closure wearing sunglasses. Guess she's finally getting her karma, I said quietly. She is, Natalie said. And for what it's worth, I think you handled this whole thing with more class than most people could have. I smirked. Oh, I don't know. I did turn a restaurant into a live-action soap opera. Yeah, but you did it politely, she said, laughing. That counts. We talked for a bit longer, trading updates, laughing at Derek's downfall, and then hung up. I sat there afterward, staring at the wall, realizing something strange. Revenge wasn't supposed to feel this peaceful. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even smug. It was like I'd walked out of a movie theater after the perfect ending, credits rolling, popcorn gone, heart unburdened. Then, of course, life decided I was getting too comfortable. That evening, Claire called. Again. I almost ignored it, but something in me said, let's see what rock bottom sounds like. I answered. Claire. Her voice cracked like static. Mason, please, just hear me out. I've heard enough, I said. Unless you're about to Venmo me for all the years I financed your lies, there's really nothing to discuss. She sighed. I made a mistake. No, you made a series of well-planned choices, I said. Let's not downgrade it to a mistake. Mistakes are forgetting your keys. This was a business strategy. She was silent for a moment, then said softly, I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know Derek wasn't what I thought he was. Welcome to the club, I said dryly. We meet on Thursdays. Bring your own tissues. Mason, I lost everything, she whispered. My job, my savings, him. And whose fault is that? I know, she snapped suddenly. But you don't have to be cruel. Cruel? I laughed. You think this is cruel? Claire, you called my love predictable while lying in another man's hotel room. Cruel is what you did. This is me finally living in peace. She started crying then, the kind of sob that used to make me cave. Not this time. I felt nothing. Just distance. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, she whispered between tears. Good, I said. Now say it to yourself. Then I hung up. I stood there for a minute, phone still in my hand, waiting for guilt to kick in. It didn't. I wasn't cold. I was done. There's a difference. It's the kind of emotional stillness that feels like standing on a cliff and realizing the fall won't kill you anymore. Over the next few days, the gossip died down. Derek vanished from the professional world, Claire disappeared from social media, and the internet found new people to roast. The storm was over. But then, one night, Natalie called again, her voice trembling, not with sadness this time, but disbelief. You won't believe this, she said. Derek's being sued by his company. Misuse of funds, fraud, all of it. And the news just hit the local business sites. I pulled the article up as she spoke. There it was, headline in bold. Executive fired after embezzlement investigation. Company funds used for personal affairs. His photo looked like a man regretting every decision that led him there. Claire's name wasn't mentioned, but she didn't need it to be. Everyone already knew. I texted Alex the link. He replied, "This is better than Netflix." Natalie sighed on the line. "I guess it's really over, huh?" "Yeah," I said. Their whole little empire of lies finally collapsed. There was silence for a moment. Then she said softly, "You know, Mason, we both deserved better. But at least now, we can actually find it." That hit me harder than I expected, because she was right. Somewhere along the way, between all the chaos and sarcasm, Natalie and I had stopped being co-conspirators and started being something else. Friends, sure, but maybe something deeper. Something forged in the fire of betrayal and tempered by laughter. I wasn't sure what to call it yet, but it felt real. And real was enough. Over the next week, we started meeting up more. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into late-night walks. It wasn't romantic at first, just two people rediscovering what honesty felt like. She had this way of making sarcasm sound warm, and I had a way of making her laugh even when she swore she'd forgotten how. One night, while we were sitting on a park bench eating takeout, she said, "You ever think about how weird this is? If our exes hadn't cheated, we never would have met." I grinned. "So, technically, we should send them a thank you card?" She laughed. "Maybe not that far." "Fine," I said. "How about a fruit basket labeled, 'You messed up, but we appreciate the introduction'?" She rolled her eyes, but the smile lingered. "You know, Mason, for a guy who's been through hell, you're surprisingly optimistic." "I'm not optimistic," I said. "I'm realistic. I've seen rock bottom. Everything else is just bonus content." We laughed again, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I realized my laughter wasn't sarcastic. It was genuine. The kind that comes from healing, not hiding. A few nights later, I got an email from a journalist. She wanted to interview me about public exposure and emotional justice. Apparently, my restaurant performance had sparked a trend. People were staging truth reveals of their own. "You're a cultural moment," Alex joked when I told him. Mason Reed, the patron saint of poetic revenge. I declined the interview. I didn't need fame. I had something better: peace, closure, and the growing suspicion that maybe, just maybe, something good was finally blooming from all the wreckage. A week later, Natalie texted, "Dinner Friday? My treat this time." I smiled. "Only if we toast to irony again." "Always," she replied. So yeah, life had twisted, turned, crashed, and somehow landed exactly where it needed to. Derek was broke, Claire was broken, and me? I was fine. Better than fine. I was free. Sometimes, fate doesn't punish people. It rearranges the cast list. You know that weird calm that hits after a tornado? When everything's wrecked, but the air smells cleaner. That was my life 3 months after the chaos. The world had moved on, and shockingly, I had too. My name wasn't trending anymore. The video had stopped circulating, and Claire had gone full ghost. I hadn't seen her since the Restaurant of Revelation, though she'd sent a grand total of 19 emails, 4 voicemails, and 1 handwritten letter that started with "Dear Mason" and ended with "I hope someday you'll forgive me." I didn't read past line 3. I didn't need to. Forgiveness wasn't for her. It was for me, and I'd already given it. To myself, for staying too long in something that was killing me slowly with politeness and good intentions. Life got quieter. And quieter, I learned, is wildly underrated. I sold the house, too many ghosts in those walls, and moved into a downtown apartment with a balcony that overlooked the city skyline. The kind of view that makes you think you've made it, even if all you did was survive better than expected. My evenings were simple: bourbon, takeout, maybe a bad movie, definitely peace. I even bought a new couch, gray leather, modern, comfortable enough for existential reflection and mid-afternoon naps. But moving on isn't just about letting go. It's about building something new with better materials. Enter Natalie. Our double betrayal club, friendship turned into something that didn't need a name, but felt damn near perfect. We didn't rush it. We didn't even label it. We just existed together in this weird post-apocalyptic dating landscape where honesty was sexier than mystery. Some nights, we'd just sit on my balcony, talking about everything and nothing. She'd tell me about her son, about how he was handling the truth. I'd talk about Emma, how she was still the only person who could melt me with a hug and a "Daddy, you're funny." Yeah, Emma. Turns out she was mine after all. Claire had sent over the paternity results during one of her desperate apology phases. I didn't open it right away. I let it sit there in my inbox like a landmine, afraid of both possibilities. But one night, after too much whiskey and a pep talk from Alex, I finally clicked it. And there it was, 99.9% match. My little girl was mine. Biologically, emotionally, spiritually mine. I cried. The real kind, not the movie kind. The kind that burns on the way out, but leaves you feeling lighter. I called her the next morning, and when she picked up, her little voice said, "Daddy, are you coming to my dance recital?" I said, "Wouldn't miss it for the world." And I meant it. That recital was a defining moment. Picture this, a gym full of parents with iPhones, kids spinning in sparkly costumes, and me, front row, pretending not to tear up while Natalie sat beside me, smiling like she'd seen a man rebuilt from the ground up. When Emma saw me in the crowd, she waved mid-spin, nearly took out another kid, and I laughed so hard the woman next to me shushed me. It was perfect. When it ended, she ran into my arms yelling, "Did you see me, Daddy?" I said, "You're the best dancer in the world." And for the first time in a long time, I felt like one part of my life was still pure. Claire had taken a lot, but she couldn't take that. Speaking of Claire, she reached out again a week later, because apparently, shame has no expiration date. This time, she wanted to meet in person for closure. Translation: she needed reassurance that she wasn't the villain in her own story. I told her, "Closure's a solo activity, Claire. Try journaling." Then I blocked her number for good. It felt like signing the final page of a long, terrible book I never wanted to reread. Meanwhile, Natalie and I were slowly turning into something that resembled a relationship, if a relationship was built on trust, banter, and mutual PTSD. We made each other laugh, which is the best kind of therapy. One night, over takeout sushi, she looked at me and said, "You know, for two people whose marriages exploded, we're weirdly functional." I raised my glass. To dysfunction done right. We toasted, and the laughter filled the room like music. It wasn't all perfect, of course. Healing never is. I had days when I still got angry for no reason. When a random perfume scent would trigger a memory I didn't want. When guilt would whisper, "You could have fixed it sooner." But Natalie had a way of grounding me. "You don't owe anyone the version of you that suffered," she told me once. That line stuck with me. It became my mantra. A few months later, we took a trip. Colorado. Mountains, clean air, the kind of silence that makes your thoughts sound less angry. We hiked, we joked, we got lost once. My fault, obviously. And at the top of Mount Elbert, we just stood there, looking out at miles of horizon. "You ever think about how small we are?" she asked. "Constantly," I said. "But lately, it feels less terrifying." She smiled, leaned her head on my shoulder, and I swear, for a brief second, the world made sense again. We didn't post about it. We didn't need validation. This wasn't revenge, it was redemption. There's a difference. Revenge ends with applause. Redemption ends with peace. I finally understood that. When we got back, I started getting calls from reporters again. Apparently Derek's company's scandal had gone federal. "Would you like to comment on your involvement?" one asked. I said, "Yeah, my comment is I don't care. Good luck with your subpoenas." Then I hung up. Claire's name popped up in the news too, briefly. She'd left town. Rumor had it she moved to another state, started a small business. Something vague like holistic coaching, which felt ironic, considering she'd never been able to heal anything in her life, least of all herself. But I didn't hate her anymore. I didn't wish her ill. I just didn't wish her anything. Indifference is underrated. It's peace without effort. One evening, Natalie invited me to her place for dinner. Homemade pasta, candles, music from some jazz playlist. It felt intentional. After dinner, we sat on her couch, her son asleep upstairs, and she looked at me with that same glimmer she'd had at the restaurant, the one that said she was about to drop something profound. "Do you ever think," she said slowly, "that maybe all of this, everything, was supposed to happen?" I tilted my head. "You mean the lies, the heartbreak, the betrayal?" "Yeah," she said softly, "because it led us here." I thought about that. About all the nights I'd stayed up angry, all the mornings I'd replayed the pain. And now here I was, sitting beside someone who'd survived the same storm and somehow found her way to the same calm shore. "Maybe you're right," I said. "Maybe the universe just wanted to give us a better co-star." She laughed. "You always have a line, don't you?" "It's my coping mechanism," I said. "That and bourbon." We sat there for a while, comfortable silence, her hand eventually finding mine. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't some cinematic kiss under the stars. It was quiet, steady, real. And that's the thing about love after betrayal. It's not about intensity. It's about consistency. I didn't need grand gestures anymore. I just needed peace that stayed. By the time spring rolled around, my life looked nothing like it had before. I'd started a small contracting business with Alex. Turns out being an electrician and an emotionally scarred ex-husband gives you great project management skills. Business was good, life was steady, and Natalie and I were happy. Not the movie kind of happy, though we're fine sitting in silence eating takeout while watching reruns kind of happy. The real kind. One afternoon, I got a call from Emma's teacher. "Mr. Reed," she said, "your daughter wrote an essay about her hero, and she picked you." I laughed, caught off guard. Really? Did she mention my poor dance skills or my excellent pancake technique? The teacher chuckled. "No," she wrote, "my daddy is brave because he didn't let sadness make him mean." That hit me like a punch straight to the heart. I thanked her, hung up, and sat there in my truck for a solid 5 minutes, trying not to cry like a Hallmark dad. That was it. That was everything. A few nights later, I sat on my balcony, city lights flickering below, Natalie's laughter echoing from the kitchen as she burned garlic bread again, and I realized something profound. The storm had been worth it. Every lie, every tear, every moment I thought I was breaking, it all led here. To laughter, to freedom, to the quiet certainty that I was okay. Better than okay. So, yeah, I moved on. With style, with scars, with humor. I moved on knowing that heartbreak doesn't define you, it refines you. And if you're lucky, it introduces you to someone who makes peace feel like home. I raised my glass that night, to new beginnings, to clean exits, to the beautiful mess of second chances. To life, I said out loud, smiling to no one in particular. And to never mistaking comfort for love again. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's becoming so unbothered they don't even exist in your story anymore.